what's going on, guys? It's RM Punk here once again with the Punk Wrestling Podcast. Welcome to new viewers and hello to my old viewers. Today we are talking NXT. I will be putting my AEW review up tomorrow as I had a very busy day today, so I apologize for that, but a lot going on. We'll get straight into it. NXT, it was a good show. Wasn't anything wow over the moon special, but it was a good solid 2 hours of wrestling and a lot of lead up to next week, which looks like it's going to be a stacked show. So we'll get straight into it, shall we? Lorcan and Birch versus Champa and Thatcher started the night off. We see before the match how it was set up. Last night, Champa challenged them to a fight. They agreed to a non-title match. Champa said, of course, putting the title on the lines would require, and someone from NSK chimes in and says bollocks. No surprise when we get to this match, it was a fight. Hard hitting, back and forth, groundwork from both teams, very nice stuff. Champa and Thatcher had the best of it early on. Lorcan changed the momentum when Thatcher had him in a submission and he breaks it with a fish hook and then hits a chop block to Thatcher. A clothesline to Thatcher, Thatcher flips over and he's holding his neck, he rolls out the ring and his arms twitching, looking like it could be a serious injury as we go to break. But we come back from break and Thatcher is okay, so that's all right. It was just a good sell. Ciampa's on fire when he gets the tag, running around like a man, clotheslining everyone several times over. At one point in the match, Thatcher had a sleeper on Birch. Lorcan comes in, kicks Thatcher. Thatcher doesn't break the hold at all and just laughs. And Champa comes in, takes Lorcan out. They're both in a sort of sleeper position. They start pounding sort of beats of the Belgian style, both of them at the same time. That was nice. The match is breaking down. Imperium are on the ramp, and this distracts Champa and Thatcher, and Lorcan and Birch win with a assisted DDT. It was a good match. I'm like, oh, why did that only distract the one team? But then later on, you'll know. Roddy's in the ring, throws the dog tags down and calls out Adam Cole. If anyone meant anything to you, you'd get out here right now. It's not Adam Cole that comes out, it is Finn Balor. And Balor says, when will you learn? Cole isn't going to come out for you. He doesn't care. Roddy chimes in and blames Finn for the Undisputed Era falling apart, saying it was all going well until you got involved. And Finn says it isn't his fault, it's because of the title. And he knows how to get Cole out. Next week, it will be Balor versus Cole for the title. So we've got a NXT title match next week, ladies and gentlemen. Finn then says that Roddy will never be a leader. He will always be a follower. And until you get more greedy, selfish, and get a killer instinct, you'll never. And then Roddy punches him. They fight, and that gets broken up by the officials. Later on, the main event will be Finn Balor versus Roderick Strong. Nice main event there. So, we get the first of 3 segments with The Way. They've gone to see a therapist. And Johnny wants Austin to have therapy for his Dexter Loomis problem. The therapist is an old lady, and she's like, well, it should only be the one person, but we're all family here, we all need to speak about it. And Austin says that when he was kidnapped, it was a vacation. Candice says that being kidnapped cannot be a vacation, and Indy says, with the right person it could be. Lots of weirdness going on here. Austin says nothing bad happened. Dexter needed a friend. It's a cold, hard world out there. And Indy says she'll warm it up for him. Johnny asks what is she doodling. Indy's got a little notepad out, and Indy's notepad says Mrs. Indy Wrestling Loomis with little love hearts and everything. Oh, how sweet. Johnny's losing it at this point. Why is he not in jail? Just hollering at the therapist. The therapist puts it on him, says, and Johnny's like, it's not about me, and he gets thrown out by the therapist. What the hell was this? And you'll hear after the next 2, I will also say, what the hell is this? It was odd, it was strange, quite entertaining, but what is going on with this group right now? Money Grimes is talking with some agent backstage, and he wants to change the name of the building to the CGA, the Cameron Grimes Auditorium. Regal's hand on his shoulder, asks him to come with him. asks him to stand up. He stands up and says, last week you hit a crew member, I've got lawsuits, all this sort of stuff. Grimes like, no worry, and tries to pay Regal off. I have kiss my grits money, Mr. Regal, and everybody has a price. Regal's like, I have no idea what you're saying, but I have a contract with your name on it, and tonight you'll be facing Bronson Reed. And Grimes goes cursing Ted DiBiase to close that segment. So we will have Grimes versus Bronson Reed tonight. Money doesn't buy you everything. Next up, we got Aaliyah versus Ember Moon. Robert Stone Brown was at ringside, as was Shotzi Blackheart. Ember controls the action throughout here, even with distractions from Robert Stone. Nothing really works, and she wins with the Eclipse. This wasn't the greatest match. It was messy at points, and you never felt like Aaliyah had a chance in this match at all. So I'm not sure the purpose of it, but it was there. It was okay. It just wasn't the best. Thatcher's been interviewed next, and he says about the past of Imperium being thrown in his face, and Champa interjects and says the past is just the past. It's the past and ends the video. For those who don't know, prior to WWE, Walter had a stable called Ring Camp, which is kind of the prequel to Imperium, and some of the members of that was obviously Walter. It was also Bartel, and it was Timothy Thatcher. So that's what they're talking about there with the history there, that, you know, Thatcher could end up siding with Imperium and screwing Champa over. But we'll see, we'll get to that. Next up, we had the women's tag team title match. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez versus Naya and Shayna. So let's get to it, shall we? Naya and Shayna were in control earlier against Dakota. Kai did get some fighting back against Shayna. Shayna, after the break, gets very vicious with Dakota stomping on her knee, which is going to be a story point for this match. Naya hits a stretch muffler on Dakota and then swings her head first into the corner pad, which looked gnarly. Kai does make the tag, and Raquel takes charge against Shayna. Sorry about my words today. But Kai gets back in after a little bit, but the knee keeps giving away. Shayna gets the clutch in, but Kai fights out of it and makes a tag. So Raquel is now the legal participant. She takes out Naya, but also takes out the ref at the same time. They then fight outside and over the announce table. In the ring, Shayna and Kai are there, and Shayna gets the clutch back in, and Kai gets choked out. Adam Pearce, out of nowhere, sends a Raw ref out, who declares Shayna the winner by submission. So we get a screw job from Pearce. So Pearce is now, what, a bad guy on NXT, a good guy on SmackDown, and indifferent on Raw? Where we... So yeah, that will be a story point later on, I think, as well. We're going somewhere with this, and I'm not sure what. We'll talk about that later. But first, we have to go back to the therapist's office. So, the therapist is asking, why does Loomis have an eye on Austin? And Austin says he gets lonely and could lose a friend. Indy says she'll be his friend with benefits. Candice is looking at the phone, which is buzzing continuously, saying, just repeating what's being said on this phone, really. No, he doesn't want friends, he wants victims. And Austin's like, I understand why you don't like him. You know, he can be weird sometimes. And Indy says she likes it when he gets weird. This is going in all sorts of weird directions. The therapist realises what's going on, that Johnny's texting from outside. And then she kicks out Candice and Indy out of the office. She really wants to know that she wants to know what really happened in those 3 days. We get a quick promo from Sir Scott from a production booth of sorts, like a studio kind of thing. It says it's Swerve's house, he's just different and he doesn't care. And the fact that he doesn't care makes him dangerous. We get LA Night Out next. He says he's waited too long to step in this ring and say, let me talk to you. But this isn't a dream. He's not going to talk about boyhood dreams. This is business. He mentions that Tom Brady is half the man of LA Knight. He'll be the guy setting trends and records. you're not going to get fancy kicks, flips and dives. He's not here to be fancy, but he gets the job done. He says, don't call me the GOAT. That's overplayed. I am LA Knight. As he's finishing, Bronson Reed music's hit. And he comes out and LA Knight lets him have the floor and leaves. Cameron Grimes comes out. His song, the rap song we've been hearing over the last few weeks, that is his new entrance theme, if you didn't already know, and everyone's loving it. He offers Bronson some money to, but that doesn't work. He gets punched. Bronson hits like a bonsai drop, but like standing bonsai drop, not from top or anything like that, for a 2 count. However, you could very clearly see that Bronson had to get up to allow for the breakup of the pin there. There's no way Grimes can get up from that position. A little disconnect for me, but it is what it is. Bronson's pretty dominant throughout here. Not to say Grimes didn't get any offense in, but in general, it was Bronson Reed. He hit Grimes with a big suicide dive. At this point, LA Knight gets involved. The distraction causes Grimes to hit the cave-in and win for the count of 3. So we're getting an LA Knight Bronson Reed feud to start off. Fair enough. Okay with that. LA Knight is very much mic-based. Bronson hasn't really had much mic time, so maybe this is a chance for him to get a little bit in. So we'll see how we're going. Little cut backstage, and Regal and Pearce are arguing, but we can't hear what they're saying. Again, where are we heading with this one? Kaden Carter cuts a promo. Casey's out of a torn LCL, but she's still going to go for Xia Li. She doesn't care what Xia Li was, but she's going to take her out, and Xia Li can come get it next week. We get a quick recap of Cross and Escobar from last week. It was a very good match. But first, back to therapy. So we're now the therapist and Austin. Austin is saying, no, it was a great time. He was in a small room with the windows boarded. He watched cartoons all day and ate cereal. And the therapist says, I've spoken to Dexter before this meeting. And he told me that he couldn't wait to get rid of you. You're just so obnoxious, terrible eating habits, obsessed with cutting Loomis's shirts up for crop tops. And Austin just breaks down in tears. The way console him, and Johnny comes back in and thanks the therapist and gives her some money, and the therapist calls them all idiots. What was this? Someone tell me, please. I didn't understand any of it. Maybe I missed something, but I didn't hit right with me. Some of it was entertaining, but it just didn't make sense. We get Everest versus Breezango next, or so we thought. Algado del Fantasma take out Breezango, and Everest gets taken out by Escobar for Escobar to cut a quick promo. Santos says, do not mistake last week for weakness. If you do, this is what awaits you. And that was it. Simple, clean, cut. It's good stuff here. Gets his heat back a little bit. It's not over with. I'm all for that. Like I said, next week is looking stacked. They announce some of the matches, or they go over some of the matches. We've got 2 title matches. Finn Balor versus Adam Cole, and Io Shirai versus Toni Storm is next week. So I am looking forward to that. And Regal then says that because of what happened in the women's tag team match tonight, he will be making an announcement next week which will change the landscape of NXT. So we got some speculating to do. It could be NXT women's tag team titles. Could be some kind of invasion thingy. Banning other people outside of NXT to come to NXT. I'm intrigued. I suppose that's it doing its job. I'm intrigued. Then you should be intrigued. But we get to the main event. Balor versus Strong. Strong, not in the Undisputed Era gear. That is over. He's done. He's in his old gear. The different music. I couldn't remember if that was his old music or it was the new music. Early on, Wade Barrett compared Roddy's situation with Undisputed Era to leaving an abusive relationship. A little bit close to the mark with that one, but all right. It was back and forth. Lots of groundwork. The groundwork was mainly from Balor. Strong was hitting more throws. towards the closing of the match, Balor hits a sling blade, but the dropkick gets countered into a stronghold. Balor counters a gutbuster into a double foot stomp, which was nice. Hits the corner dropkick, coup de grace, 1916 for the win. It was a good match. I've slimmed this down. There were quite a few little spots here and there. It was a good match. It was a good way to end the show. Cole is on stage and Finn Balor doing the pointing to close the show. It's all about next week. Like I said, I think this was more of a building show for next week. But all in all, it was still enjoyable. Hope you have a good day. I will speak to you all soon. Peace, love, like, and subscribe. Good night.